Hopefully this is working. And not going live on, yeah, it is. It is working.
Oh, I just got a notification.
All right, so we still haven't been able to figure out the whole YouTube thing.
Working on it.
Been trying for a while today to do the YouTube thing. It's not gonna work. We're gonna give it a couple of minutes, let everybody get online and see that we're live and working. I want it to pop open here so I can see if somebody, there we go, so we can see comments.
There we go.
There it is. Hello everybody out there in the Facebook world.
Hello.
That's what I need. I need a beverage.
You should get a beverage.
So while we're waiting on everybody to get all squared away, I'm going to straighten the camera a little bit because it looks crooked to me.
It is a little cockeyed. Yeah.
And I'm going to get a beverage and we'll be back in just a second. So entertain them, Micah.
All right. Well, I hope everyone is doing fabulous well today.
Does that look straight?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Okay. All right.
So, yep, we starting on the whole half days of working thing. Pretty cool.
What's that?
Working half days.
Yeah, I saw that from
Yes.
7 a.m. to
7:30
7:30 p.m.
I had a lunch
Literally
break.
half days.
Yeah, I had a lunch break. It was great.
Generally, half days would be construed as half of the workday, not half of the 24-hour
half of the
day.
day is half of the day.
Mm-hmm. Indeed it is. Hey, for those of you that can that are watching right now, how's the sound? How's it sound right now? I see Micah's watching.
Yep, Micah just pulled up. Rolling up in here.
Yeah, let me just turn it up. So. Woo! That's not going to work this way. Well, because it plays. How's the sound over there, Tim? I see Tim's on, so I think it's working. I think we're good. So, tactics, tips, and training. Today we're going to talk about some things that we hear about all the time. Folks come in the shop and they ask about stun guns, they ask about tasers, and they use those words interchangeably, those phrases, those descriptions. They're not. We're going to dive into that, and we're going to talk about the different types of pepper sprays that are out there, not to be confused as mace, something that people typically say, I need to get some mace. Mace isn't very common anymore.
No, they were very common in the Middle Ages. Big metal ball.
Okay, well, no, it was also the in
the
the 80s.
the spray.
The spray mace.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Those mace and pepper spray worked very different chemicals, different everything. And so we're going to dive into that. But first I have to give a shout out to the guy that makes our knives. Robert really hooked me up yesterday.
Pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet. And he, we're kind of a fan of the Wyatt Earp.
A little bit.
A little bit
of Tombstone.
And if I had to, and his crew.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to say that I had a favorite character, it would have to be Doc Holliday. I think you would agree.
Doc Holliday he's your Huckleberry.
He is. He gave me a signed copy, a certified signed copy. And I just had to brag about it a little bit because it was awfully nice of him to do that. And I'm very appreciative. So it's pretty cool. On the back, it's got like the certification and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, it was pretty cool. So thank you, Mr. Campbell. Appreciate that. The lights made it not so great, but all right, let's dive into it. Tasers versus stun guns. Let's start off with what they are. First and foremost, a taser is what law enforcement typically uses, and it's in the shape of kind of like a gun and has a cartridge, and it shoots probes out. They have little knurls on them usually, and they can pierce through clothing and sometimes skin and
Mhm.
hook, and it delivers an electric shock. A stun gun delivers an electric shock, but it's not anything like a gun. It's got some probes on it. Sometimes they're in flashlights. They make those really wicked sounds. Yeah, those really wicked sounds that they have to use. And we're going to talk about why one's better than the other, but I want you to really understand what they are first. They typically advertise themselves, especially the stun guns.
Mhm.
They advertise themselves. It's got 10 million volts, and it makes a heck of a crack when they mess with it. And they come in flashlights. They come in little handheld devices. They've canes. I mean, I've seen them in all sorts
Oh,
of
yeah.
different types of things. But what you first need to understand, voltage, the volts that they're advertising generally aren't all that accurate, but voltage is only used to puncture through the clothing and whatnot that it's going to be trying to get through. What actually delivers the shock is the amps.
Mhm.
And they don't really want to talk about the amps.
No, they don't. Probably because they diminish so quickly
They
on
do.
multiple uses.
They do.
Yeah, they may, and if they do quote amperage, I bet you it's a factory new battery the first time it's ever been.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're usually using little 9 volts. I mean, there's not a whole lot. They deliver a shock. Now, some of them deliver pretty good shock that can be delivered,
Delivered?
delivered, but dilapidating.
Debilitating.
Debilitating.
There we go.
And I'm like, it's not coming out right.
It delivered the debilitating, the device delivered the debilitating.
They're considered non-lethals, but they can be lethal. So one thing to understand, a shock delivered to the chest can change out the rhythm of the heart and do all sorts of stuff. But
And a shock delivered to the nervous system, depending on the environment or the situation, can cause a physical reaction that can in turn be lethal to the person. If you tase somebody and they're leaning on a balcony rail and they go into a spasm and fall off 50 feet and land on their head, well then, yeah, that's not good for them or for you.
and usually that would be in a taser. A stun gun's not going to deliver as much generally.
Yeah, but
they
if you,
can.
if you,
They can,
if you, if
absolutely.
you localize the
Oh,
shock
yeah,
to the
totally.
central nervous system.
I didn't realize
area,
you were talking here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may have know someone who, in a fit of pique over excessive cell phone usage in a public venue,
Oh,
allegedly walked up behind someone that was on said cell phone
Whew.
and may have dropped them to the ground with such a thing. Allegedly.
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 I just realized the description on the Facebook is wrong, but oh well, it's a new program and
We're working at the
we're working
bugs.
out the bugs. But the little lines across the bottom say what we're actually doing, so that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So, all right. So tasers versus stun guns. That's what they do. That's the differences between them. The advantages and disadvantages. So there's a reason why law enforcement isn't walking around with a stun gun. Stun guns, take away space. We talk about space all the time.
Yeah, you want space. You don't want to lose your space.
Right. Stun guns typically don't deliver enough shock to really cause your attacker to go down and stay down. Whereas a taser has a cartridge and it shoots out those electrodes, those probes that will hopefully make contact and deliver shock between those 2 points, creating a circuit, which is the same thing that a stun gun does. It creates a circuit. You have to get both electrodes in and it has to get to the skin to deliver that shock. The stun guns, you have to keep there and keep pressing that button. When you let go of that button, if it was delivering enough shock that would cause them to no longer have control of their whole body versus just an arm or something, or just be an annoying sting, you're gonna be within striking distance when you let go.
Oh, yeah. And they're going to be upset.
Yeah. My daughter and I have tased each other with a stun gun. It's funny, see how we intertwine those? Tasing them with a stun gun.
Mhm.
That's why tasers and stun guns get really mixed up. Most of them don't deliver enough shock that causes a problem, but they make a loud noise and it's scary. Tasers, however, when they deliver the shock, they deliver that shock for about 5 seconds. And if they aren't complying, they can deliver that shock again. And they can do that as long as there's power left in the taser.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But and even with the high power of a taser compared to a stun gun, we've seen so many instances of them absolutely failing.
well, especially if they're high on something.
Exactly.
Yeah. This was several years ago, but it was at a law enforcement conference when I was a military police officer. And these tasers were relatively new, maybe not new, but this packaging and this product was somewhat new.
Mm-hmm.
And they tased us, and it was quite effective. They'd have a guy on each side of you, and they would launch it, and you'd see how long you could hold up, but you would go down. I mean, it hurt.
Yeah.
And there was a guy on each side, and they would help you to the ground, and it hurt. It hurt really well. I mean, I remember it. And of course, we were trying to be all big macho men, and like, oh, and you drop down. But that doesn't happen with a stun gun. It just doesn't happen the same way. And the taser gives you space,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we talk about quite frequently. The tasers give you space. You don't have to close in on somebody within striking distance to deliver a shock. That's really the big difference between them, other than the delivery method where it's two probes going out versus, two probes being jammed in.
Yeah, and remember, your bad guy is probably not going to just come at you with fists. And if they do, they have experience in throwing those.
Probably more
Okay.
than you do.
Probably quite a bit more than you do.
Yeah.
Your average bad guy has been earning his street cred for a significant amount of time before he ever decides he's going to come to you. And that's something you need to realize. Number two, yes, if you decide you're going to carry a stun gun for protection, you're way too close.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to annoy your bad guy, and he's going to pull out a knife or a screwdriver, and then he's going to stab you with it because you were so close. You were close enough to use a stun gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
So the utility of a stun gun is very, very narrow in scope, and you have to realize that if you're going to be carrying one of those for defensive use.
And I'm not going to say that they're completely ineffective, because there are some stun guns that will deliver some heck of a shock.
Yeah,
There
oh,
really
yeah, there
are.
They even make some
But-
knuckle dusters that
Yeah.
have a shock, that have a stun gun in a quote unquote fist pack.
But what matters is not the voltage, it's the amperage. And they never really want to advertise those, but if you're going to buy some, make sure that you understand that. The other is, find a good friend and don't be such a good friend and shock them voluntarily.
Just remember that that's going to come back on you too. So.
Yeah, voluntarily. I mean, if you want to find out the effectiveness of it, then ask your buddy to let you deliver a shock. As I said, my daughter, I had her scared of it for a long time until she actually got shocked, and then she was like, "Oh."
Sounds the bark is a lot worse than the bite.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it stings, and it's not pleasant, but it's not. I mean, a lot of them aren't enough to really stop an attacker. And then keep in mind that if they've got fists of wailing and you're trying to get in to get a good shot, I mean, it's got to be a body shot, and it's going to have to make a good one. So
Mhm.
it's just not effective. Now, cost. Tasers, the good ones, are pretty expensive.
Mhm.
I mean, they could be $1,000 for those
Yeah,
things.
that's why they call them tasers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is what they say. Taser, taser, taser. Tasers, they're pricey. Now, there are less expensive versions out there, but the kind that law enforcement is carrying is, in the $1,000 range, $1,200 range. Stun guns, I mean, you can get them for $10
Mm-hmm.
on up. And there's a reason. They're just not as effective. A 9-volt battery is not going to do the same. Tasers have cartridges too. So there's a cartridge cost that you have to maintain too. If you end up using them, you're gonna have to refill those cartridges, and the cartridges are 40, 50 bucks to
Yep.
put in new cartridges. So there's a cost, but they're highly effective. They're also considered non-lethal, but keep in mind, they can be lethal as you move forward. Pepper sprays. You got anything else you want to say on tasers and stun guns?
Tasers and stun guns, you know, and even if you decide that you're going to invest the money, which is typically going to be more than a quality firearm to carry a taser, understand that they, like we've said, sometimes they work well, sometimes they don't, depending on what substances somebody is on or their natural physical resistance to electronic current. That may not work in your situation.
I mean, they
And
can
you
have
may
nerve
not-
endings that are dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
you may create a situation where you're giving yourself a false sense of confidence against an opponent when you should really be beating feet out of there, which is what we suggest to everybody that's involved in that gets themselves in an altercation or finds themselves in an altercation. You try to leave as soon as possible. You don't want to hang out where bad guys are. Bad guys are radioactive. You don't want to hang out with them any longer than you have to. When you're starting to try to debilitate someone with electricity, you are going to have to be in their vicinity longer than you want to. So be smart. Think of the pros and cons of actually getting into that situation. And if you have to use electronic device in self-defense, use it and get the hell out of there.
yeah, it's good to have varying levels of force. We're not all police officers and carrying a duty belt and have all the different pieces that we can do that. So I don't carry multiple levels of force. I mean, my other level of force is going to be shout, shove, show, shoot. So I'm gonna shout at you, I'm gonna shove at you, I'm gonna present my firearm, and then I'm gonna shoot my firearm if you continue to go down that path. But that's my approach. Your approach may be different, and that's why we want to make sure that we cover this. I mean, a stun gun, all it's going to do is deliver an electronic charge, or a taser is going to deliver an electronic charge that causes your muscles to contract and create chaos in the firing of nerve endings. That's all it's going to do. And it can be effective, but first thing you need to understand is there's a difference between tasers and stun guns.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Those words don't go together. Now let's talk about pepper sprays, because man, there's a ton of them out there. But I want to talk first, pepper spray and mace, they're not the same.
Nope.
Right?
They are
That's
different.
what we said in the beginning of the show. They're different. The chemical is different. Mace, you would shoot it at the chest of the assailant, and it would be inhaled. Pepper spray, you're going to shoot it at the face, generally. That's where it's going to do its most damage. You shoot it at the face. It's incredibly hot. They have varying degrees of hotness depending on which brand you get. And I think within the brands, there's others that still have varying levels of heat that it's going to put off and create trouble. What if you've never been sprayed with pepper spray? What's going to happen is your eyes are going to close, your nasal passages are going to start running, and your body is trying to flush this stuff out. It's going to become difficult to breathe, and your face will get red, and it's not a very pleasant day even after you've cleaned it all off. Law enforcement officers have to get sprayed with pepper spray and fight off an attacker and retain their weapons. And I'm pretty sure that's probably the same today it was when I was in law enforcement. And it makes for a bad day. The whole day sucks. Even after you wash it all off, the whole day sucks. It doesn't completely go away, and sometimes if you shower, it comes back. If you didn't get it all
Sound
off.
like a good time.
It's not. But let's talk. There's different types of pepper sprays, and what I mean by that is they're deliverables, right? So you've got foam, which which is this one.
Yep.
Yep. You've got a foam. The foam is, well, I'll just say what they are and then I'll go into it. You've got foam, you've got vapor. Vapor. You have stream.
Stream.
And you have gel.
What's the gel?
It's right here.
There you go.
This is a small little gel. You have gel. And that's basically it. So the differences between them. Foam is going to be kind of like a shaving cream. Have you ever sprayed foam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a shaving cream. It sprays and covers so that you can't see very well and sticks to the face. There is a problem, there's a downside. It doesn't stick to the face entirely and it can be wiped off and thrown at you. Now, wiping it off doesn't eliminate the effect. It's still there.
Yeah, it's still no good for you.
Yeah, but it can be thrown back, which means that you could end up getting some foam that you didn't want. Gel is like the foam. Oh, let's talk about off gas before I go to gel.
Yeah, let's.
Foam doesn't off gas as much. So if you were using foam indoors, you're not going to have everybody, like on a central air system, you're not going to have the whole place filled up with pepper spray and causing everybody to start hacking and gagging as they're in a building. It doesn't off gas as much as some of the others. So that's the reason why foam is there. Gel, a lot like the foam, but it's a gel, and it's sticky, right? So when you spray it at the face and you go to wipe it off and throw it, it's gonna stick. It's gonna smear and it's gonna stick. It's not like the foam where you can just throw it back as easily.
Yeah, it's got an adhesive property to it.
Yeah, kind of like, well, like shaving gel, right? Kind
Yeah,
of.
hair gel, shaving gel.
Yeah.
Any kind of gel that you've ever gotten on yourself. You know it sticks to your hand. You got to find something to wipe it off with.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine if that gel felt like fire. There we go.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. And then you have a vapor.
Vaporator.
Vapor is not going to spray like a stream that we'll talk about in a moment. Vapor is just going to be like an aerosol going off.
Like a fogger.
Yeah, like a fogger. Think of like a bug fogger in your house. You press the button and it's just going to go off. It's going to fill the room, and so like these cell busters, right? This is a form of a vapor, and it's got a nice little hose, and you stick that underneath their door, and the whole cell gets filled up with pepper spray, and it sucks.
Yeah, it's not a good time. Not a good time.
Yep.
There we go.
Stream.
Stream. So stream is going to be, if you ever used a wasp spray, it's going to come out like that. I'm not saying the stream is wasp spray. So let's get that clear right now.
Man, we should talk about that too, because how many people, carry wasp spray, it does the same thing. Oh man. I'm sure it's not pleasant, but it doesn't do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear the same people that say carry bear spray, but you know what? That's actually not too bad an idea. The bear spray is not a bad idea.
Yeah,
Don't
but-
spray a bear with people spray.
No.
But you can spray people with a bear spray.
You can, but a dog spray is actually pepper spray that has been watered down. So don't confuse them, because I've had people say, I just carry the dog spray. Dog spray is not going to be as effective on people. Stream has some off-gassing properties, and if you think about spraying into wind, stream can spray back at you. Spraying into wind with foam or gel is going to reduce its effectiveness for its reach, but it's not going to come back at you like a stream will.
Or like a vapor.
Yeah.
Vapor will come right back on you. If you don't believe me, go outside and go to put on some of that spray-on sunblock. All over the place.
That would not be fun.
No.
That would not be fun.
Not a great time.
we've covered all those.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you can see, they can't see these other ones, these other sizes.
We got them in all kinds of different sizes, and
Yeah.
this one is actually a little a grenade. The thing about using a oleoresin capsaicin grenade is that you have no fuse time. Okay, so once you pull that, the whole thing goes, which is why I'm not setting it off in this room.
Yeah, even the inert ones,
Mhm.
they go off quick.
Now we actually. Looking. Yeah, there we are. We're back.
All right. Well, that should be good for another 20 minutes or so.
Okay, great. So anyway, this couple comes in wanting to buy a 22 so they can shoot this big aggressive dog. And what we ended up doing was I found them a more suitable device, which is a pepper. The one I sold them was actually a stream, not a gel. But they were able to keep it right beside the door. It's easy to work, pull the pin, squeeze the thing. And so they were able to take that back home, hose that dog a couple of times, and it left him alone.
Yeah, and the advantage to that too is, you know, sometimes people don't want to do lethal force, and so they may not have wanted to shoot the dog. That's the only option that they thought that they had, and so sometimes people think, well, I'll just shoot them with a 22, or I'll just shoot them with whatever. That's still going to be lethal force.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and spraying them with some of this stuff, it's gonna get the dog's gonna realize that was a bad idea really quickly, and their noses are much more sensitive than ours, and like in this case, a gel is just gonna stick to the dog's face and it's gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
So stream would probably be a better option than spraying the dog with a gel. But all of these also have a dye in them. So law enforcement is able to identify somebody that you have sprayed with this. There's no denying that they were the attacker or that they had done this, because every single one of these is going to put a UV activated dye on them.
Mm-hmm.
And all you do is take a black light and their face is going to shine with UV dye. So if you're worried that, you know, you'll spray them, call the police, and they'll get away and they won't be able to prove it, it all has a dye in it. I don't know of any pepper spray that doesn't have a dye, but there may be some out there, but just look at it and it will tell you that it has a dye. So
Yeah, and the cool thing about the dye is, of course, you can track them down afterward. But just remember, don't try to hold them in one spot, particularly if you've sprayed them with any kind of a pepper spray, particularly the gel, because if they start thrashing around trying to leave and you try to hold them in one spot, you're gonna end up with pepper gel all over you. And that's not the situation that you were trying to achieve in the first place.
Yep.
Spray, get away from me, and then you leave. Okay, then you can call the cops from the safety of some other location where people are not trying to assault you.
Each one of these pepper sprays has a little bit different delivery method too. And if you're going to carry it in a purse, in a pocket, in a pouch, in a vehicle, there's some things you should be aware of. One, in a vehicle, these pressures the contents are under pressure. they can explode. And not that they necessarily will, like in Missouri heat, but if you're in Arizona, leaving this in your car, it probably will explode in 120-degree temperature. I don't know that for a fact for that degree range, but they are under pressure, and they should be kept, not in a hot car.
You gotta keep them in a relatively cool location.
Yeah. Now, if you're outside and it's 120 degrees, it's probably not gonna blow up, but that's not the same as a cooking car.
Right.
For delivery method, like for this style, there is a flip up cap like this that you literally just shove your finger in, and there's a button in there that you can press down on. Hopefully that will show up on there. This little safety device prevents it from being pressed unless your finger goes underneath it. Another method is like on this one, where there's a twist top on there. And do we have one that's open? Is this one open?
I think that was easier to open.
Yeah, versus the other one. So, what I mean by twist top is you literally just take and twist it and then press down on it. They can become engaged in a pocket in a purse because it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to slide that over. And so if you have a device like that, you want to make sure that you're constantly checking it to make sure that it hasn't gone over and you're going to fill your purse or whatever the case may be with pepper spray while driving down the road.
Yeah, that would not be great, particularly if you're driving down the road.
Yeah. Some of these also are like glow in the dark. Now, I don't know how long it has to be exposed to light, but that's something that they offer is a glow in the dark where you can see this little tab. I think that's more marketing hoopla than anything else. If you've got it in your hand and you can feel with your thumb, you'll be able to spray and use it. It's not going to spray in its deactivated mode. It's got a piece of plastic that will stop. And then you have this style, which is like pull the grenade, pin, and spray. That's literally all you have to do. It can be locked back up again simply by pressing this little pin back through and safely used. Each one of these, anytime you use them, you should replace them. But they all tell you that they can be used with the exception of these big ones. These all have, I think they say 10 to 15 sprays, even these little bitty ones. Mm-hmm. It's gonna matter what the duration of the spray is, all that kind, but each one of them have multiple use. I just wouldn't trust them to be used more than once. If you've used it, it's served its purpose, it's time to get a new one. I mean, even this big one's only 40 bucks, right? And this is a big gel one, whereas this one's 10 bucks, right? So it's, if it saved your life and got you out of an encounter, 40 bucks is worth it. Yeah, just get a new one. Some of them, like this company, Guard Dog, they say that if you use it to defend yourself, they'll replace it for free. So some places will do that. I don't know how well it works. I'm not advocating this company over another company, but that's a neat little feature. They do expire.
Also it has bling.
Oh yes, bling.
It's bedazzled.
It's bedazzled. You cannot change that out. So you have to buy a new bedazzled. It doesn't. You can't just pull it out and put a new one in. It doesn't work. Somebody tried that. It doesn't work. They expire. So make sure that if you're buying them, you pay attention to what the expiration date is. We all have smartphones. You can set a calendar alert for, hey Siri, remind me December of 2020 to replace this one, because this one goes out January of 2021. So if you're carrying pepper spray and you're not sure what the date is, look at it, because they do expire, and you don't want to have something that's not nearly as effective. And
another thing, if you're storing pepper sprays for a long time, or you have, say you want to keep a pepper spray someplace or other, just to have available, what you want to do, typically they'll come with a little tube like this. You want to store them upside down. Okay, the reason for that is I'm sure that that somebody has been kicking around in their going through dad's tools and found an old can of WD-40 that was still half full of WD-40 and no propellant left. Well, the reason for that is because the gas that propels it will leak out through the release mechanism over time. Okay, that's one of the big reasons why they have expiration dates on here, because that's how long they've theoretically tested these seals before it starts seriously losing propellant. Okay, so if you're going to store them and you have a little storage tube or something, just store them upside down.
Yeah, some of them come with these clips too, right? So, I mean, you can do the same thing. Store it upside down, right? This little clip is you screw it to your wall or to your car. We all naturally store things right side up, but I mean, if you've got a wine drinker, they understand that. Store it upside down. It's just gonna make it last longer.
And the practical effect of it is that the stuff that's being pushed out by the propellant will block off the propellant's exit from the container by physically taking its place. If you put the propellant up, it will tend to evaporate out the top, and then you end up with a baton half full of pepper spray that you can't really use. So.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions on that stuff? You guys that are watching, I saw that Kevin Pine came on, Kevin up in Washington State, James Miller down in Oklahoma, Mr. Stephen Glenn Davis, Tim came on. What kind of questions do you guys have with this regarding the different types of pepper sprays or tasers versus stun guns? Don't make me ask a question for y'all to ask a question and then make me sit here and not have a question. Come on now. I don't know what the delay is, so I want to give them a little bit of time.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a delay here.
Yeah. I prefer, so while I'm waiting for you guys to have questions, I prefer gel. That's the one that I tell people the most to use. This one says it has 35 bursts. I don't know how long their burst is or what they're doing, but I prefer gel because of the properties that we mentioned earlier. It doesn't off-gas as much. It doesn't shoot as far as stream generally, but it does spray, and it does get quite a good distance, 15, 20 feet. You know, you're gonna be able to spray. I don't think you would engage somebody in less than 10 feet with it anyways. So you're gonna be fine. Gel though sticks to their face. It has the UV. It can't be thrown back at me. It doesn't off-gas as much. If I use it in a building, it's just gonna work much more effectively. Now for some folks that I've talked to that have home defense and they don't want to open their door, but there was a person that has an apartment, bad part of town, and they didn't want to open their door, and they've had people trying to break in. Get one of those cell busters, right? Stick one of those tubes through the weather stripping of your door and spray it. That's gonna get them.
Yeah, the only thing about the only downside to that is that you have to make sure if that's going to be your primary method of keeping people out of your front door, that you don't live in a building that has communal hallways.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because
it's gonna stick around a little bit.
Because that, particularly if you have a neighbor, something that has asthma, should happen to walk out their door, you're now liable for whatever may happen to them because you released a noxious agent into a communal space. So that's something to keep in mind.
But in this particular case, they didn't have those types of hallways, but it was an apartment style place, but it was open space. It
Right.
wasn't a hallway, it was open space. And the other side of that is, if there's an attacker or somebody trying to beat down a door, that other person shouldn't have been walking out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But still at the same time, we have to be responsible.
absolutely, totally have to be responsible.
We can't just go around go around pepper spraying everybody that annoys us during the course of the day. It has to be
Yep, no, absolutely. But this is a method that you can use for some home defense. It's a method you can use to protect yourself walking, dark from a building to a car. You should absolutely still have a flashlight. I mean, that is going to be
Mm-hmm.
another tool we've talked about in the past. But they're highly effective. I just prefer the gel. But take and figure out what's going to work best for you. It's hard to find gel in these small containers. Gel typically comes in the bigger ones. This one's a stream, bad example. But there is a gel in this size container. It's hard to find the gel in smaller ones simply because you're trying to compact a gel and a propellant together, and gel takes up a lot of space
Mm-hmm.
versus the stream.
Yeah. Whereas personally, I kind of like the stream. I understand that gel is a little bit more adhesive, and that's terrific. I kind of like the having
Spray effect?
additional area of dispersal from the initial. So I kind of like it, and the fact that it's not going to. I mean, it's going to irritate skin. It'll flow down the face. It doesn't stick in one spot. And when we're talking about using these, we definitely mean you should be targeting the eyes, the forehead, the eyes, the mouth, where people are breathing in, okay?
Yep, spray it at their nose.
Yep. Make sure you hose that thing down real good. Because we definitely want them to be severely irritated and irritate all the mucous membranes. We definitely want to light up that tender skin around the eyes. Yeah, so I kind of like stream.
If I didn't have gel, stream is what I would go for.
Well, if I had to pick a second thing, it would be gel.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I do not like. I mean, vapor works fine. I don't like vapor because of the off-gassing.
Well, and
Now-
it's got limited deployment options, right? Where it's not gonna affect more people than the assailant.
Okay, so I worked for years, I was a bouncer in a bar downtown in Springfield. One night, somebody got rowdy and got thrown out, right? One of their friends decided they were gonna get even with the bar and ended up taking a small pepper spray like this, popping it up, it was a vapor, popped it open, jammed the top open with a dime, and threw it under the bar.
Man,
All of a sudden, I had 260 people coughing and gagging and making their way outside. Shut us down for the night.
yeah.
So you have to be careful about when you're going to use stuff like that and be aware of the side effects.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Last chance, guys. Any questions regarding any of the tasers, stun guns, or pepper sprays? And I said Bob's joined us too. I said hi to Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Yep. Be a good thing for Bob to carry. You what? You what? Shh. Bob works on an ambulance.
You can't spray in the back of an ambulance. Don't use vapor in the back of the ambulance, Bob. You'll have to fill out paperwork because of that.
Right, right. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to watch the show. Hopefully you share it, like it. Still working on the YouTube thing. If any of you guys are techies, man, we need to get on there. Bob, the pepper ball launcher will be in a future show. That's one that I want to talk about. But I want to have one with some inert balls that we can show people. But
Those are actually pretty badass.
they are. So there's some pepper balls that are out there that aren't on today. This was pepper sprays, but the pepper balls will be in a future show. So thanks for bringing that up. It'll probably be a whole darn episode on those things because they're pretty snazzy, but they are a little bit more expensive than these. I mean, your pepper ball systems, they tend to go up there a little bit more in price. But they work the same way. It's a vapor, essentially.
Right.
When you hit it, they work the same way, but they're a little bit more targeted. It's like a paintball, but I've said too much because I'm going to steal my thunder in a show. All right. Thanks, guys. If any of you are techies and you can help us with this whole YouTube, streaming to YouTube and Facebook at the same time, I would appreciate it, because I've been trying all day today to get the two of them to work together, and it just won't. But if any of you are techies and can help with that, that would be great. Downtown Tactical is a local firearm gear equipment training school that is not located downtown, and retail store. Is not located downtown, but it has the gear and equipment needed to make it safe for you to go downtown or anywhere in town. You can find us on East Battlefield Road, right between Campbell and National in Springfield, or online at downtowntactical.com for show topics, tips, feedback, questions about what we're doing, or to give us some ideas for other future shows. You can email us at radio, R-A-D-I-O, at downtowntactical.com. We hope to hear from you. Please, please, please fill up our inboxes with questions and things that you want to hear about for future shows. If you didn't like something, it was Micah's fault. You can tell us in there too.
Yeah, bring it on.
Thanks, guys. We hope you have a great rest of your week. And we appreciate you watching the show and commenting on the Facebook. Thanks.
All right, we'll see you later.
Did I forget anything?
Nope.
I don't think so.
You got it.
I got it.
Yep.
That was live.
I know.
We'll see you guys.